Hi, I'm Bob Swirsel. I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I'm going to ride the RSVP for the first time. Wish me luck. The ride from Seattle to Vancouver and Party is an annual event that has been held by Cascade Bicycle Club every year since 1980. It was first conceived after the Seattle to Portland ride that year had to be canceled due to the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Over 1,200 riders registered for the 2025 RSVP, and the planned route was 194 miles or 312 kilometers, crossing from the United States into Canada. Early in the ride, we hopped onto the Burke-Gilman Trail, which led us out of Seattle. In Woodinville, we faced our first big climb, and there'd be plenty more where that came from, with a total of 4,267 feet or 1,300 meters of climbing on day one. I rode the RSVP with my longtime friend Nick, whom I trained with in the months leading up to this ride. Entering Snohomish, we made our way onto the Centennial Trail. It was getting pretty hot as we arrived at the Arlington rest stop, so I made sure to hydrate well as I got some lunch. For the rest of the day, the heat became a factor. I learned from my one water bottle mistake during 2024's STP, and for this ride, I brought 2 water bottles and filled a spare bottle in my pannier as a backup. Once we left the Centennial Trail, we were back to climbing under the hot sun. I was grateful for every segment that had shade. We thought we were getting a break from climbing, but the strong headwind on this segment made us feel like we were still biking uphill. I was feeling tired as we reached the final rest stop at Allen Park. I was all ready to leave the final rest stop when I discovered that I had a flat tire. Luckily, it was an easy change, and after a little bit of work, we were back on the road. The last set of climbs were brutal for me, as the heat was really getting to me. I was relieved once we entered the city of Bellingham. Arriving at the Kolschun Beer Garden in Bellingham's waterfront, we had completed day 1 of the RSVP. That evening, we biked to our Airbnb where I showered, stretched, took a nap, and then went to get dinner and some snacks. It's day 2 of the RSVP, and we're going to ride from Bellingham to Vancouver. Let's do this. I got a good night's rest and was ready to tackle the second day of this ride. Leaving Bellingham, we found ourselves back in the countryside, with farms all around us. Soon, we were riding along the United States-Canada border as we headed to the port of Aldergrove border crossing. It was my first time crossing an international border on a bicycle. For fun, I practiced converting some of the speed limit signs from kilometers to miles as best as I could. Approaching the first Canadian rest stop at North Otter Elementary School, I was already starting to feel the effects of the heat, and took my break in the shade to cool my body down. Since the distance to the next rest stop was about 35 miles or 56 kilometers, we took an unofficial break in Fort Langley. I was approached by multiple curious locals with questions about the ride, and made unfortunately inaccurate unit conversions. I was off by about 100 kilometers for the total distance, but was somewhat accurate with the temperature. So that's a win in my book. Reaching the Golden Ears Bridge over the Fraser River, we found a familiar face. With the temperature reaching 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius, I emptied both water bottles and had to use some from my backup bottle in my pannier. Eventually, we reached the Port Moody rest stop, the last one of the ride. Leaving the Port Moody rest stop, we and other riders had some confusion on directions getting over this bridge, as some of the markings were inconsistent, and when you're about 180 miles into a ride, it can get frustrating, but we navigated through it. The portion of the ride along Barnett Highway had some nice views of the Burrard Inlet, but it was not pleasant to ride alongside fast-moving car traffic, especially with some climbing. Eventually, we reached the Francis Union Bikeway in Burnaby, and from that point on it was great, even with the climbs, because for the rest of the RSVP, we would be using greenways, bike lanes, and trails. With 5 miles or 8 kilometers left in the ride, crossing Boundary Road, we finally entered the city of Vancouver. Entering David Lamb Park, we reached the finish, and I had officially completed my first ever RSVP. All right, I made it. All the way from Seattle to Bellingham and then to Vancouver, British Columbia. RSVP 2025 was a lot of fun, even though it was really hot both days. If you want to see more of my content, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time.